Hey, true believers, welcome back to the Bear Your Shield podcast. I'm your host, Ron Scheffler. And today we've got a special guest returning to the Bear Your Shield studios, my wife, Tracy Scheffler, founder of Five Stones, Dodge County, because January is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. So, Tracy, welcome back. Glad to have you in the studio here. And just for our listeners, tell us a little bit, remind us quickly about what Five Stones is and what you guys do.
Thanks. I'm happy to be back with you. Five Stones is anti-trafficking nonprofit, local, all-volunteer group, and we are fighting all sorts of trafficking through awareness, education, prevention, collaboration, and networking. And so we do a lot of presentations around the surrounding areas, mainly in Dodge County, sometimes outside of. We'll be at any outdoor events where we can have a table and have real FaceTime with people and just really getting the word out and educating, because that truly does lead to prevention.
Yeah, and Five Stones is reminiscent of when King David, as the shepherd boy, went down to the creek and got 5 smooth stones to face that giant Goliath. And so you are facing the giant of human trafficking. So for more details on that, you can check out our previous podcasts. But now you're talking, now with the January being the National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, now there's something new to be talking about that you're bringing to the surface, and that's the topic of sextortion. Now, it's not new. It's been out there, but maybe it's new to people that are listening. So tell us what sextortion is.
I find the easiest way to describe sextortion is if you take the word and break it down, it's sex plus extortion. And so this is predators, sometimes offline in real life, but the majority happening online. Predators creating false relationships, pretending that they're of the age group for the person that they are, or I should say the multiple people that they are trying to trick and use their strategies and techniques on, to think that they're in a relationship with someone who is maybe a beautiful girl or a cute boy, and then they ultimately will get you to share a picture that is vulnerable and sexualized. And then they will basically extort that victim for money if that victim agrees or falls into it because they don't see another way.
So you talked a lot about online, and are we seeing like sextortion cases more in person, or are they more online?
Definitely more online. In real life, it can happen like with an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend, kind of like, using former sexting as a vehicle of revenge. But online is really what's leading kids to become suicidal over sextortion, because it happens so quickly. And, we used to say it's maybe a 1 to 6 month process, but more and more we're seeing it can be an hours-long process. 1 minute your kid's fine, next minute they accept a friend request from someone they don't know that they think is in their age group, and then it all can happen in a matter of hours.
Yeah, it just blows up, and it's scary, and it's new, and there's shame involved, and just fear, right, of what can happen. So I know with online, people Google stuff online, and there's stats and facts and figures that are out there. Can you bring us some kind of stats that are out there to bring this into perspective to the audience?
So I would say in the last, if you look at between 2021 and 2023, online enticement has more than tripled. We're now in 2026. So we can only assume that it is still more than tripled or worse. And so, 27% was like an intimate partner, so offline, so you can do the math for what percentage was online. We're seeing victims being recruited through Facebook, through Instagram, and honestly, any platform online where people connect with people. And then if you think about our teens, the portion of teens who say that they're online almost constantly has roughly doubled since 2014, 2015. And again, that was 10 years ago now. So most teens, last time I checked, and it's probably more now, receive upwards of 240 notifications per day. So they're living their lives online. And offenders have gone online with them because it's easier to be a criminal online. You don't have to have human contact as a trafficker. You don't have to be making appointments or managing victims or keeping people in your home or stable. There's no physical address. You're more hideable. You're less traceable. There's no link to a phone number. So it's easy access and opportunities to connect with children and youth. And the most popular category of sexual searches is indeed youth.
And that's a lot of online exposure for certain. What kind of effect does that have on our youth then?
It's so interesting because these upcoming generations are the most connected generations in history, but they are proven to be the most lonely and the most isolated generations in history. And so all of that social media creates cyberbullying, a lack of privacy, heightened anxiety, unrealistic expectations, depression, false connections like we're talking about. You think you know someone online, but they're not always who they say they are. Lack of sleep, increased stress, decreased productivity, and again, isolation.
You know, isolation, we're kind of off topic here a second, but I remember you and I went out to lunch, or it was early dinner, whatever it was, and we got distracted, not because of the big screen TVs or whatever game was on, but there was a couple with a little kid in the booth, and both parents were in their phones. And then she put hers down, but the dad kept in his and was texting, and then they both started scrolling again because she saw that it was just they were just there eating and breathing, right? They weren't chatting, and that's sad. That's sad to see that. So there's isolation happening right in front of us, right there, and you walk through an airport, walk through downtown or something, you see how many people are just scrolling and semi-isolated in their real lives. So
yeah, and I'm not standing in judgment of that, because when we were always late to the game with technology, this family, we weren't like the big techies, and so we held off on things for a long time. We had 4 kids within 7 years. We were a one-income family, so we didn't have all the technology, and frankly, we didn't want it. So we got it later. But I admit, when I got my first iPhone, I was enthralled. I couldn't believe how the whole world was open to me. And I'll be the first to admit that negatively affected my parenting. My kids would be talking to me, and I'd be in my phone, and I could not multitask with that, and they would say later, "I told you," and I would say, "I never heard you. Make sure I look at you." But that's on me. I understand how the phones can draw us in and kind of take over what our reality is becoming.
Yeah, and so the kids are always in their phones or handy on us and stuff like that. And so that's right there at fingertips. Everything's coming at them. People are on the other side of the screen trying to get everyone, hooked up to their phone more. Advertising, criminal behaviors, and then photographs start getting shared, right? So tell me about, we talked about stats there. You had a stat on a very disturbing stat. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, kids today are growing up with near constant access to phones and devices. So for them, you and I are 56 and 57. So we grew up in real time with real people in front of our faces. We explored our puberty. We explored our dating. We explored our bodies and sexualization in real time, in real relationships. But socializing online is now a normal part of growing up, and that's not any kid's fault. And so that includes exploring relationships, exploring their bodies and sexuality in a digital world. So for them, it's normalized. It's purposely been normalized to youth so that they don't raise a red flag in their mind when somebody requests a photo. So it's increasingly common to be asked for a nude, and 1 in 5 teens in the age group of 13 to 17 have indeed admitted to sharing nudes, and that's just the ones who admitted it.
So that's 20%. Of kids out there, who admit it. So there's probably realistically higher. So walk us through, how does this happen?
Well, the majority of victims meet their perpetrators in chat rooms or game rooms or anywhere online where you are talking to people that you don't know. And so a predator or a perpetrator will create a false image, a false relationship, pretend they're someone that they're not. AI is making that easier than ever. I'm not against AI. It can be used for good in the fight against trafficking and sextortion, and it can be used for bad because perpetrators can use it to sound like the age group that they're trying to commit offense against and create these false relationships with. So anywhere where your kid is talking to people online that they don't know offline, I'm going to say that's a problem, but you're not going to stop that from happening. It's, the train has left the station. We can't pull it back in. So we have to deal with what to do about keeping this from happening. Because I personally, and I think I speak for all of Five Stones, we would rather prevent sextortion from happening to your youth or your child than to have to help you to deal with it after the fact. Because sometimes after the fact is too late. Sextortion is becoming the biggest contributor to male teenage suicide. And so we really want you to get to your kids before the problem pops up. And we feel that time is of the essence. And every conversation you have with them before the problem pops up could save their lives and could also save them a whole lot of headaches. And you yourself. So we would rather take away their innocence than someone take away their lives.
Yeah, that's scary. The highest rate of teen male suicide is from that? Is that what was the comment?
It's becoming. I don't have a direct percentage statistic
but
at
growing.
This time. Yes.
Yeah. And that's scary. There's, like we said, there's shame and fear involved in all of that. And so you're right. We're not going to be able to prevent people from getting onto the sites, our kids getting onto these sites. So what are some of the sites that are used by perpetrators that maybe, parents, grandparents, and family members can check out to check and, oversee the phones?
I think listeners will be sad to know that there's almost too many for me to list off, but we'll start with the bigs: Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. I'm not saying don't be on those or let your kids be on them. I'm on them. My kids are adults now, but they've been on them for a time. TikTok, YouTube, WhatsApp, Talk, WeChat, Tinder, Grindr, Kick, and then the intersection of sextortion and pornography sites that are generally safe sites that have been hijacked by the pornography. I'm not going to say the actual industry, but people coming in kind of from the underground. So OnlyFans, Project Melody, Princess Hentai, Pornhub Discord, well, you don't have to look any further than the name, Pinterest, TikTok, Fortnite, Overwatch, Minecraft, Pokemon, Atomic Heart, Genshin Impact, Resident Evil, Valorant, Roblox, Grand Theft Auto, YouTube Kids, and I want to specifically talk about two that are popping up now in the news to give people actual, go and look for these and talk to your kids about what they're doing. One is Polybuzz, Polybuzz, and this comes up as ads on games, and it's a free private AI chat platform. So your kids could be chatting with 20 plus different AIs, some pretending to be their boyfriend or girlfriend. It's known for being pornographic. So it's basically a platform where they create a character that is them, kind of in a fantasy, personalized and immersive fantasy land. And that's very problematic because then you've got people coming in and relating with them as their own characters. And so it's this fantasy land. And then the second one I want to mention is Brand Army, which is a growing trend of minors using content subscription platforms. So this is where creators monetize content for subscribers. So it's a creator to fan interaction platform, and there's a lot of risks in that. There's a pressure for the popularity that's driving young users to monetize their online presence using sexualized content, such as pictures in bikinis, short shorts, sexualized poses. And then, some people might say, well, Brand Army has junior channels for 13 to 17, so that makes me feel good. But it doesn't make me feel good, because while that requires parental permission and management, it allows adults 18 and older to subscribe to their youth's, minors' channels. So it's conducive to predatory behavior. It facilitates adult to minor interactions and potential grooming. It incentivizes sexualization of children. It monetizes images, which leads to exploitive potentiality. It's pressure to create more appealing or suggestive content to get more subscribers. And then that content can be redistributed. So, as we always say, once it's online, you lose control of it.
Yeah, you mentioned too, about this grooming, but it's also like little iterative steps. When you get into credit card debt, you don't necessarily get into credit card debt overnight unless you buy something big, right? But I mean, it takes, days, months, years of getting into a big debt where you kind of feel like you got out of control. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until it becomes a big problem. It's just as what you're saying. You mentioned Grand Theft Auto. And, that's supposed to be a video game for kids, and now they're suggestives.
That one's been problematic from day one. In that game, I may be using the wrong terminology because I've never played it, but you can earn rewards or something. You can earn something if you hire a prostitute and then murder her.
Yeah, so it's just almost normalizing, like watching the news, and now you played the game, and now you heard it on TV. Well, it's just part of everyday life. It's sad that it's come to that.
But what's happening with some of these other sites that I mentioned, that you might be out with your child and they've got the iPad, and you say, let me see what you're doing, and you look on it and you're like, oh, it's okay, it's YouTube Kids. But what's happening is people are coming, like I said, kind of from the underground into those sites and kind of hijacking those characters. And next thing you know, your kid could be looking at like a strip club with all of their favorite characters in suggestive poses, dancing on poles, having sex. I mean, it's
planting seeds.
It's bad. It's bad.
And we keep saying kids, but it's our kids. But the kid might be 16, 15, right? It's young adults,
or they might be 8.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful when we just say kids. I just want our listeners to think we're thinking of a little toddler running around or an 8-year-old running around. It can be, but I mean, at the same time, the vulnerable, right, are teens who are unsure of themselves.
And that probably is the greater age group that is taking their own lives because of sextortion, would be the teenagers, the high schoolers, and some middle schoolers for sure.
So what makes our youth vulnerable? Like, what are perpetrators looking for?
A lot of this is similar to the human trafficking, the sex trafficking vulnerabilities. It's predators looking for a weak spot or a vulnerability to take advantage of. And so some of the vulnerabilities for sextortion are high parent-child conflict, poor communication between kids and parents, kids who are looking for love and attention and who isn't, kids who are lonely, isolated, depressed, low self-esteem, delinquent behavior, if there's substance use by the victim or the family, if there's an absence of a cohesive family or lack of supervision. The LGBTQ community is vulnerable. Kids or youth with historical trauma, or even adults with historical trauma, and just, anybody who is accessible online, which, as we've said, is almost everybody in the younger generations, and then even our generations. And then lastly, I'll just say it's anyone who takes the bait through no fault of their own, because these people really know what they're doing. But the people who are vulnerable is anybody who takes the bait. These predators have tens to hundreds of people on their hook. They're putting their line out there, not just to this one kid or this one youth or this one young adult. They're putting out multiple lines, and then they're going to pay attention, and they're going to really go after the ones who take the bait and send a picture or send a nude.
Yeah, you mentioned about just all these things that could be red flags. And to really, if I think about this, to really see some of these red flags, you have to be a parent that is not, quote unquote, like we talked about earlier, in their own phone, being isolated from their kid. You have to be participating in their lives. You might be a single mom, single dad, and you are worn out after your workday, and all you want to do is throw in a frozen pot pie and get the kids to TV land or whatever it is. But man, I just encourage you folks to hang in there, dig in a little bit, find that energy to help keep your eyes open, because it's tricky, and before you know it, it's so subtle, it's taken over and you're in trouble, right? So how do these perpetrators? So we talked about like who could be the vulnerable, but how do they trick them? Like, how are our kids getting deceived?
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're very good at what they do. I hate saying it because I don't even like using the word good in this topic with, a criminal or perpetrator, but they are very good at what they do. And they're basically gaining the trust of a child in order to prepare them for abuse. So again, they're forming friendships with flattery, expressions of love and trust, emotional closeness, exclusivity to kind of start pulling you away from, it's just you and me, baby. Pull them away from people who might notice something. And then the normalization, like I talked about, using increased sexual language so that becomes normalized. Their compliance testing to see, how agreeable and obedient this potential victim might be. And if they don't pass that compliance test, they might kind of just leave that one dangling on the hook and move to someone else who's a little more vulnerable, a little more compliant. So, there's a lot that we can do that is not hard in order to counteract these techniques and strategies.
Yeah, we're blessed. We're new grandparents. Man, our grandson's almost 1 year. About a month away from his birthday, and there's 2 on the way. And I was so grateful, thinking one day, like, man, I'm glad, like, I'm not the parent of this modern era, because I would be that stickler dad, the pain in the rear end dad. You don't need a phone till you're 45, and you're out of the house and you can make your own decisions. I would be kind of like that, but I think about it and it's like, no, you and I have to help our kids when our grandchildren, they're going to need help. There's more out there. There's more bombardment out there from enemies and from our enemy. And so some of our listeners, they have children, they have grandchildren, and some of them might be freaking out right about now, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. But tell me a little bit, like, what are some of the prevention strategies?
Yep. Well, we have a grandchild who's in Minnesota who's going to be 5, is that right? Or going to be 6. So, I mean, it's never too early to start thinking about the protection of even the little ones, because everything bad happening to our youth is getting younger and younger and sooner. So I hate having to, talk to them about things that are, you just want to keep their innocence, but we do need to be protecting them. So parents, you are the main source of help and guidance. And if you're not a parent or the parent, but you are a guardian, or you have a role of mentorship in someone's life, you're in their circle of influence, you are the main source of help and guidance. It's not going to come from outside, other than, sit at a presentation with someone like me or a school counselor so that you're being fed the information. That's important. But you're the ones who are going to be keeping the devices out of the bedrooms at night, monitoring their social media, checking their privacy settings in apps, spending quality time with them and communicating. And like you said, Ron, we're tired at the end of a work day or at the end of a runaround day. And it's easier to say, I'm sure everything's fine. But I can tell you that the parents who have lost their children to sextortion would give anything to go back and hound over their kids' online social media accounts. We also encourage the use of some apps such as Bark and Net Nanny, Circle. Life 360 is an app program, Canopy, My Mobile Watchdog. And then looking at websites that can give you ideas and information so that you become the expert on this, so that you know what you're looking for, what you're doing when you grab your kid's phone. So we recommend NetSmarts with a Z, Thorn, Culture Reframed. And I recognize that people aren't sitting around with a pen listening to podcasts. So you can go on our website, and we have all of these resources listed on our website. So that's 5-stones-dodgecounty.org. 5-stones-dodgecounty.org.
Yeah, appreciate that. We have to be ready. We have to be, I'm thinking of Jake. He did a sermon at church a while back, and he said, you don't have to get ready if you're always ready. And I love that, right? And we, as parents, grandparents, we always have to be ready. We've got to be on top of things. The majority of, I don't know about if I should say majority, but it's so easy to just be an average parent or to be the likable parent. It's difficult to be a great parent, a great grandparent, because that means involvement. That means paying attention. It means being involved in day-to-day matters and questions, and asking hard questions. Like you said earlier, it's easy to just kind of be like, oh, I'm sure they're okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking of some of our kids' friends and stuff over the years, and how some of them got into trouble, and they kept on going because the parents either got divorced or bailed or just didn't ask the tough questions. They didn't want to get involved. It's sad. It's sad.
I have regrets as well. We fell into that trap a little bit too, just getting busy and tired and not going the extra mile, taking the extra steps.
Yeah,
we all go through it. It's not just other people.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying here my shield's polished, but we do want to protect our kids and bear the shield for our kids. So we talked a lot about prevention strategies for parents and grandparents and listeners. For the youth that may be listening out there, like what would you say to them?
Yeah, let me pop back for 1 second to the parents. Our biggest ask of you is to talk to your kids now about sextortion. Everything you learned today, everything you might learn if you go to our website or just even Google sextortion, preempt the moment that a predator tries to trick your kid by giving them the knowledge, giving them the street smarts, giving them the antennas to recognize what's happening as it's happening before it's too late. So we really ask you to have that conversation with your kids first. Don't wait for the problem.
And you don't have to go at it alone either. Let's say you're a single mom or dad. You don't have to go at it alone. Even if you're like on your own from a family perspective and your parents aren't, your the kids' grandparents aren't around, if you reach out to a trusted friend, you might just find out that they're like, you too? Like, I care about this. I want to, let's join arms. Let's lock arms and go to battle together. Yeah.
So, what I say to youth, never post revealing photos. Once you have sent them, you have no control of where they're going. Sending, receiving, or distributing nude or sexually explicit photos of anyone under 18 years old is a felony. Tell a trusted adult if someone has requested a nude photo. Tell a parent, tell a teacher, tell a coach, tell a neighbor, tell an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent. There's somebody in your life that you trust enough to tell. And if you have already sent that nude photo, tell them anyway. You're going to need help. Report anything uncomfortable, unusual, such as requests to meet, requests for money, requests for sex. And then lastly is the simplest thing. Stop, think, and keep your clothes on. The person that you may have accepted a friend request from online or that you're chatting with in some community or platform may not be the person attached to the picture that they have sent you. That beautiful girl that you think you're talking to and about to share a photo with because she sent you one, May not be that person at all. It may be a 60-year-old man sitting somewhere in a room tricking you. And I'll tell you, the sextortionists sextort women for photos, and then they use those sextorted photos to trick boys.
So a double whammy.
Yep,
Yeah.
double blind. Yep.
What are some? I know we chatted a little bit about this, but we're getting close to our end time here. What are some of the warning signs for parents or family members, guardians that they should be looking out for?
Yeah, it's a lot like drugs. You're going to look for withdrawal. They're closing, they're hiding their device when you walk into a room. Some kids will kind of, it used to be snap it shut. Now it's just like they'll tuck it under their thigh, or into the couch cushion. Excessive bathroom time, because that's a room with a locked door that they could be taking photos of themselves in. Secretive about their online or offline friends. Lack of sleep because they're worried, because they may have already found themselves in this situation and it's like becomes completely obsessive to them. Increased sexual language that you notice that they didn't used to use. Mood shifts, depression, anxiety. They're going to look different for everyone, but those are some of the things to look out for.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like you said, it's a lot of that could be associated with a lot of things, but warning signs nonetheless that maybe the youth needs some help. So obviously we want to stop any of this before it happens, but what do we do if it does strike our loved ones?
Well, parents and guardians, you really need to be there unconditionally. If a kid has the courage to come to you to say that they sent a nude and now they're being blackmailed, thank God that they're coming to you rather than lying dead in their bed because they took their own lives because they couldn't see a way out. I would rather deal with the problem 100 times over than lose my kid to this. And so would any parent that I've talked to or read about who has lost their child. So you want to be there. You want to say, I'm here for you. I will help you. I understand you made a mistake. I understand you were tricked. And any other emotions that you're having, whether you're angry or ashamed or outraged, go scream into your pillow on your own. But don't let that be part of the equation for the victim, because they're going to need you to be strong for them. You need to report the sextortion. There's a cyber tip line, 1-800-THE-LOST, there's cybertipline.org, or there's 1-800-THE-LOST. And then you want to report this to local law enforcement, your sheriff's office, your local police department. Definitely mention if the age is under 18 of the victim. And then it's counterintuitive, but you want to save everything. That child or youth or young adult is going to want to try to delete all of the pictures and all of the conversations, but you need all that saved to create a report and open an investigation and to hopefully get a case against that sextortionist. Later, you can use sites like Take It Down through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Kids. Later you can deal with that. It's too late anyway. You're never going to get it all down anyway. So whether you try to do that immediately or you wait until the police have what they need, it's not going to matter. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's really important to save everything and to really help your kid to understand why that's necessary.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because being National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, Five Stones, Dodge County, is having an event coming up here in a couple of weeks, and the story that you will hear from a gentleman that will be presenting, as well as another family. I think two families represented, right? It's a sad story. Man, if you just, I'm sure they just wonder if had they known, had they thought, had their antenna been up a little bit more.
Had that kid reached out to them.
Yeah, could something have changed differently in the outcome? And then I got the story. First of all, it just shocked me, and then, but also the way that the story pans out just made me angry from, halfway around the world or third of around the world, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly, but we're going to hear the story.
That's a good point. These sextortionists, they can be in the same state as you. They can be in a different state in the U.S. They can be in a whole different country. And our kids don't know. They just think it's a friend request or someone they're chatting with.
So to our listeners who are in the counties nearby Dodge in Wisconsin, here Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, tell us a little bit about the event that's coming up and when it is and where.
Yeah. So we're having an event on Thursday, March 26th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Beaver Dam High School. And we will have a dad who was with us last year about the same time to talk about the loss of his son to sextortion. He's coming back. That's a wonderful man named John DeMay from Michigan. And then right before our event last year, a sweet boy from a nearby town also took his life due to sextortion. His parents are coming to talk and present as well because, you got to take this pain and try to put it somewhere to save other kids, to make it livable, I think, to survive it. And so these parents are doing a great thing with their pain, and I think it's a way of keeping the stories of their kids alive and mattering, because their kids matter, and they should have had a future, and they don't. And it is very angering, and it's very sad because these kids had their whole lives ahead of them, as well as many, many others. We're also going to have someone from the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. So these parents will talk to us for a little bit, tell their stories, and then we'll have a panel with the parents and the Internet Crimes Against Children.
Okay, so tell the date, time, and place again.
Thursday, March 26th. 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Beaver Dam High School. That's 500 Gould Street in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin.
All right. Well, we hope folks out in the community that you can attend. It's going to be, I would say, an eye-opening evening to hear some stories, and it'll probably shock you, and it should infuriate you that it's happening in your back door. And if you're within listening distance, which is everywhere nowadays with technology, it's happening in your local areas.
And we invite you to bring your kids. The only age limit we're placing is 10 years old and up. Of course, your kids. Some 10-year-olds are kind of more mature than others, so that's up to you. But especially middle and high schoolers, if they hear it, then they will know and have the antenna up.
So if I'm listening to this, I attend the event, I'm probably going to get ticked off a bit, and I might want to do something. Tell me again your website, address, and if I want more information, where do I go? What's your website?
You can message us on our website at 5-stonesdodgecounty.org, and there's a place to contact us.
All right, perfect.
And that email will end up with me.
Okay. Well, Trace, thanks for coming back into the Bear Your Shield studio. Always great to have you on here. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. We want to keep our kids safe, and the only way to do it is to let them know what's happening and to try to get a step ahead.
Yeah, amen. Well, listeners, thanks so much. This will do it for this episode. Until next time, Godspeed and bear your shield.